From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Fazende, riding shotgun as he does each and every podcast is Andre Johnson
Junior.
Do not forget the Junior. It's very important to remember the JR. Before we get into today's content, be sure to like, share, rate, and review. If you are watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Get that bell notification for when we drop that fire content. And it is Monday in the city of New Orleans. Another victory Monday for all who celebrate as Rizzy season rolls on. The Saints get another win, their second win since the coaching change. They're 2-0 since Darren Rizzy has taken over. They defeat soundly the Cleveland Browns, 35-14. Andre Johnson Jr., you're back. You know, I said you're here each and every podcast, but that's not entirely true. You take a Friday off. You go toast your best man toast your best friend as the best man at his wedding. How'd it go?
It was a really fun wedding, you know, plenty of good food, plenty of good vibes, good music, everything you want out of a wedding. Luckily, he didn't, because I told him, I was like, don't you get emotional, because if you cry, I'm going to cry. And they don't need to see us both crying up on this stage. So no tears. We were good. Great night.
Was it in New Orleans?
It was.
Oh,
it was
good.
over in Elmwood, Champagne Palace.
Oh, yeah. I've been to weddings there. Yeah, that's a great place. Well, good. I love a good wedding. Weddings are fun. So I'm glad you had a good time. Yeah. Glad you're back. Madeline
Saints
Adams.
Game was fun.
Pitch hit came in relief for you.
Y'all held it down.
So we held it down on that Friday. And we talked about the game on Sunday. Turned out to be a pretty good game on Sunday because the Saints, as we said, took care of business. And I had hinted at all throughout the week that it wouldn't shock me if the Saints won pretty soundly in this game. I don't know if you'd call it a dominant win, but they closed out in dominant fashion. They won by 21 points, and by early fourth quarter, the game was pretty much over. So, yeah, I'll call it a dominant win. When you lose 7 straight, like they did a couple weeks ago, or in that stretch, get a 21-point win, their biggest margin of victory since week 2. Hey, we will take it. So the Saints are now 4-7, got some confidence here, and I said this just before we get to the big picture. Friday with Madeline, low key. You get this win, it's more than just, all right, we got some energy back, we got some passion back. I think low-key, okay, if we get a little roll here, maybe we can do something here on the back stretch of our season, the back third of their season, but they take the week off here. So I think they feel like they're in a good spot, stable spot, and Rizzy's pushing all the right buttons. So how do you want to go with Sunday's game? There's a lot of ways we can go, but I think there's one place we really, really have to start.
All roads lead to number 7 because Sunday against the Browns was a Taysom takeover. Taysom Hill racking up over 200 all-purpose yards, 3 touchdowns. He was out there throwing. We had a question about in the final word feature.
That's
about,
right.
Will we get to see Taysom pass? We finally saw him throw a pass, 2 of them, one good, one bad. We saw him score 3 touchdowns. We saw him used heavily in the passing game, Sean. So with all of the usage that Taysom got against the Browns, is this what you've been waiting to see out of him, Clint Kubiak, and his Saints offensive game plan?
Yes. Okay, your turn. No, just allow me to explain. Allow me to explain because, yes, it's a perfect way to phrase this because there's a lot of layers to the Taysom Hill conversation, as there typically is because he's such a unique player. First off, it is Taysom's world. We're all just living it. Ain't that right? Yep. Ain't that right? So do Saints fans, I think they do, but I don't think there's a – he's always been there for the last 8 years. But do they truly understand how much this organization is truly going to miss Taysom Hill when he's gone? It's not the first time we've seen Taysom Hill take over a Saints game. I mean, even at 34 years old, let's not forget that, people. 34 years of age, it will not be the last, I promise you. He's a unicorn. He's an outlier, the rarest of rare breeds. I remember talking to Drew Brees, this is like during training camp, either 2018, was probably 2019, about at that time, if you recall, Taysom had really kind of gone on a tear, and especially coming off that 18 season and into 19. And teams were trying to find their own Taysom Hill. And Drew got defensive, like standing up for his guy, Taysom. Like, whoa. Like, that's nice. That's cute if you want that. But let's not pretend that there are a lot of people walking on this earth that are physically built enough to even handle all the things that Taysom handles. And then you combine that, obviously, with the sheer mental bandwidth it takes to process playing that many positions at that high of a level in the NFL. I remember that being a thing. 18, 19, 20 teams trying to find their Taysom. Well, here we are 8 years in. Is anyone even remotely close to him?
Nobody
what he
has
does on the
touched the
field,
surface.
just the sheer unique ability and versatility that he has. That's just not the combination that you normally see. He truly is one of one. Derek Carr, I thought, articulated it perfectly after the game when he said, Taysom goes through a 200-play call sheet, and he has to learn it at 3 different positions, sometimes 4. That really quantified it for me. 200 plays, 3 different positions, with all the nuances that go into each position, every check, every this, every that. I mean, it truly is something. Now, what made Sunday's installment unique is it wasn't just the multiple hits. It was the misses, and there were some big ones. Taysom started red hot, then hit that lull in the middle, and then finished on the highest of highs to finish out the game. That first drive, the last 3 plays, 18-yard completion, 3-yard reception, 10-yard run on the zone read. Well, I don't know about you. I thought he handed that thing off to Alvin.
I did.
That was an impressive ball handling thing. It was the right read, great ball handling, 42-yard kickoff return as well. A couple drives later, then he throws the interception. Bad mistake. Zoned in on MVS and threw it without really reading the cover. Just kind of figured it would be up there. I think he kind of felt like he was in the zone and just kind of the ball was going to find him. It didn't happen. Then came the fumble. The fumble came on a drive that could have been a kill shot for the Saints right before half to add points. They were up 14-6. That was a little more forgivable in my opinion because he kind of caught the ball. It was a physical mistake, so he caught the ball in traffic, really did a nice job of catching it in traffic and holding on despite kind of being a pinball, getting hit around a couple times, and he stays on his feet. Denzel Ward's got his hand, really good leverage inside the ball, and by him staying on his feet, it actually cost him because that gave him enough time to, A, maintain possession, control of the catch, and then get the ball ripped out. He was really in a good spot to strip it away, and Taysom was kind of spinning, and he fumbled. Cleveland recovers inside the 10. That was tough, and you could tell it really affected him. But he responded. The 4th and 1, first play or second play of the fourth quarter, ended up being the game winner, was a true work of art. I break down film all the time, both by design and execution and just sheer will from Taysom Hill when he hit that second level. He got high load, once from the linebacker, the other from Delpit, who was coming in, had a good angle on him, hit him at the waist, and it looked like he tried to wrap up, but Taysom just kind of shrugged him off, and he broke both tackles and found pay dirt, and it wasn't the usual QB power. It was more of a QB duo, QB ISO run, a little different wrinkle, and that was the theme of the game. And then the last one, it was that traditional power counter left, turns the corner, races 75 yards for a touchdown. Looked like at that point Cleveland kind of gave up. Yes. It looked like they were it's like, all right, I don't want to get hit by this guy again. Like a little bit of business decisions there towards the end of the game. But then there was the game saver. No one's going to talk about this, but it was on that drive on 4th and 1 touchdown came, third quarter, 14-14. You recall the offense hit that rough spot, 3rd and 13. Taysom stays in to block on a play. Somehow he feels that Derek Carr has escaped the pocket to his left and then just has the presence of mind to kind of drift off into space. Carr kind of drops it into him. Taysom makes the catch, runs for 14, gets tripped up from behind, and that drive ended, like I said, with the 4th and 1 touchdown. If they punt there, they hit that low in that third quarter, things could have gotten interesting. You can kind of feel the tension in the Superdome when that happens. After the game, this is interesting. After the game, there was a lot of discussion about Taysom's usage. So I went back and looked at the numbers. This was the second highest snaps he had, 33 on offense, but it was the highest percentage of snaps. I think it was 55% of the snaps. And it was easily the highest amount of touches that he got all year. Technically, it was 15 touches, but you got to count the kickoff return and the 2 passing plays. So 15 plus a kickoff return and 2 passes. I'm going to call it 18 times. He affected the game with the ball in his hands. He sounded to me like a guy like this is available every week. I'm here. I can do it. I can handle it. Let me be the guy that can be the game changer for you. And I'm sure it seems to me that given what they currently have on offense at the playmaker spot without Olave, without Rashid Shaheed, other than Alvin Kamara, Taysom is the best playmaker, clearly the best, most versatile player, but he is, to me, their most reliable and second best playmaker on offense. His highest touch total before Sunday, this was mind-boggling to me. His highest total amount of touches was 9 a few weeks back against Carolina in that loss. 9. That doesn't sit right with me. Look, you're on the back stretch. Any fear of maintaining him or holding him back, he's already been injured once. You're at the back third of the season after the bye week. You need to throw caution to the wind. And to me, I think there has to be an effort now from Clint Kubiak that he touches the ball at minimum 12, but he probably needs to average around the 15 that he hit on Sunday, because when he does that, generally that means you're controlling the line of scrimmage, you're controlling the clock, you're controlling time of possession, and you're kind of in the flow as a play caller, which I thought this was Clint Kubiak's best game since week 2 as a play caller. So all that to say, Taysom was awesome. Taysom is unique. Taysom should get the ball more. 15 is the magic number. He needs to average 15 touches from here on out the rest of the season.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I also did my research, and I was looking at games since 2022. Since 2022, the Saints have had 11 games where Taysom Hill has had 10 or more touches. And just like you, I'm including pass attempts in those touches. 10 times where he's got the ball in his hands and can affect the game. 11 times. In those 11 games, the Saints are 9-2.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
The formula is
that's
simple.
Perfect. Yes.
You give Taysom the ball. He is one of the hardest players in the entire NFL to defend, because when you see him back there, he can throw the ball. He had the interception, but he also had a nice completion.
New wrinkle.
He can run the ball 70 yards to the end zone. You can motion him out and pass him the ball. And right now, you mentioned it, outside of Alvin Kamara, he's the Saints' most dangerous
What else
pass
do you
catcher.
have? Right.
Like, he is the ultimate X factor. He's the ultimate joker in the deck that when the defense sees him, there's so many different things that you can do, and it's so difficult to guard him. And despite him doing this for so many years, nobody's really solved the puzzle consistently.
Right.
Like,
right.
I know that these defensive coordinators watch a lot of film, but despite that, the numbers show if you give Taysom Hill the ball in 3 different areas of the game 10 or more times, they're 9-2. You're going to win a lot more games than you're going to lose. And I think yesterday the Saints went with that, because it was a concerted effort to get him the ball early and often. Like, first and second quarter, it felt like he got the majority of his touches.
No doubt.
They were feeding him early. They came into that game with the intention of getting Taysom the ball. And we've talked about Darren Rizzy a lot. Darren Rizzy told us that at halftime, after the Taysom fumble, he was kind of hanging his head, because in the first down he had some good touches, but he also had an interception.
Yeah.
And he had a red zone fumble, the worst place to fumble.
Yeah.
And Darren Rizzy said he came to Taysom, and he told him straight up, like, we're going to keep giving you the ball. We believe in you. We are going to keep feeding you. And I know it's easy to sweep that under the rug, but that's exactly what Taysom needed to hear at the time. Taysom Hill comes out that locker room, and he has a great second half, and that's the kind of boost that I'm not in the locker room to know what maybe Dennis Allen was telling the players or what he would have said in that situation, but I know that the head coach and the voice that's been resounding over the last 2 weeks, Darren Rizzy's voice, that voice told Taysom exactly what he needed to hear, and Taysom went out there and did his thing.
And look, and at least to a deeper discussion, and we're gonna pod on this, because if they start winning more with Rizzy, the Rizzy factor is gonna get realer and realer. But just in the little bit I've picked up in the 2 weeks he's been here, he states the obvious, which sometimes you don't necessarily think that's necessary, but like when you're 2-7, everything's necessary. So like he states the obvious to Taysom. We're going right back to you. You know, some people may think the whole construction worker bit is corny. So what? He put the levels on a construction project. And the theme is finishing. Well, you know, when you've done any construction, the last thing you do, you finish it off with the level to make sure everything's level and even. It's hitting. It may wear off. It may not. Who cares? Right now, you got to be willing to try it. And he is trying it. And it's connecting through 2 weeks. And I'm glad you said that, because awareness in that moment is you got to go right to it. And you got to be the guy that verbalizes it. And sometimes, you know, you can't just assume. And I have no idea how often Dennis Allen did or did not do that. But I do know it was a clear, concerted effort to make sure Taysom's head stayed in the game in the second half. And look what happened. I mean, he had the game sealer with the 4th and 1 play, and then he had the game kind of exclamation point with the 75-yarder, and he had a running back run earlier in that game, so he had a couple of catches. So this is a guy that, had a rough stretch, but also had one of the highest of highs throughout the game. So, yeah, I think it was great awareness by Darren Rizzy to do that by the entire team, and Taysom delivered. And everyone understands. I mean, I know Taysom's thrown interceptions before, and I know he's fumbled before, but I don't know if he's ever had it back-to-back like that in a game where he also did all these other things. So, yeah, it could be a whirlwind of emotions, and even a guy at 34 years old has been doing this for a long time. Sometimes he's a little bit of, we got you, man. We got you. And guess what? And guess what? It worked, so it's hard to argue with the results. So, Taysom Hill wins, or Saints win. Taysom Hill shines. Rizzy keeps on connecting. And this is the bye week, so it's interesting. Again, we're going to get into this a little bit more on Wednesday, but like some people are asking if the bye week is coming at the wrong time. What do you feel? What do you fall on that?
I think I understand from a momentum point of view, like you want to keep rolling. You look on the schedule, you've got the Rams next. The Rams are a pretty good team. I don't necessarily think it's a bad time to have the bye because when you look historically, Darren Rizzy, we talked about it last week, all the way back to 2015, only 2, now 3 interim head coaches have gotten the job and won their first 2 games. Antonio Pierce last season, Dan Campbell in 2015 when he was with the Dolphins, and now Darren Rizzy with the Saints. You've got to go all the way back to 2000 to find the only coach that has started 3-0 after getting the interim coach job. That would be Gary Moeller with the Lions. So what Darren Rizzy is trying to do in his next game, it doesn't happen. I mean, it's been 24 years since somebody has done that. So to have a week to kind of take a step back and say, we have played good football, but there are some things that we can do better. To give when you look at the timing, it's around Thanksgiving, so to kind of give the players that time with their family, I don't think it'll be that much of a break in their momentum, especially since they're going to play in the Dome next.
No, and I also think it's crucial because by the 3rd week in a row, you're out of the interim newness at that point. So to get the break when you're officially out of the interim newness, now you can kind of reset and refocus for the backstretch as kind of remove the interim tag at that point. Just you're the head coach for the rest of the season. Like the interim kind of transition is now over. You got 2 wins and a bye, as opposed to maybe a mixed bag result. I think the schedule actually sets up perfectly with the bye this weekend. Given the fact that Eric McCoy went down in the game after coming back, look how much different they are when he's there. I mean, 47, 44, and 35 points in a game. And it sounds like, according to Rizzy, he's going to be back after the bye week. So that's certainly welcome news because they're so much better with Eric McCoy. I actually think the bye week sets up beautifully for the Saints. And I know momentum is momentum, but I'm perfectly fine with the bye week being right now. And I think there's some guy. I wonder who could realistically that they've missed could come back. McCoy is obviously one. Who else would necessarily? Are you getting closer with Chris Olave? Is that still an opportunity with him, or is that more of a look? We got to protect this guy's long-term health here. So I don't know if Olave's going to come back.
Cedric Wilson.
He was back this past week.
And Mason Tipton was out this past week.
Well, he was a healthy scratch.
Jamal Williams, maybe just to spell a little of AK. Always a question mark next to Kendre Miller.
Yeah.
So
that's Kendre Miller would be the one. Kendre Miller would be the one because that would be, are they in the window? So it's been 2, 3, so maybe one more game and Kendre Miller could come back. So anyway, I think it comes at a good time because sometimes despite momentum, there's a lot of mental fatigue and physical weariness that adds up, and I think it's a good time to unplug, go enjoy the weekend, and come on back refreshed and ready to go for the back third of the season, 6 more games. And look, they won one they weren't supposed to win, Atlanta. Can they do it again? And I'm starting to look at some of these teams down the stretch. I mean, L.A. is interesting, but you're catching them off the bye. L.A.'s receivers concern me. Washington hasn't looked the same because I don't know if Jaden's healthy right now. So there's a few games that are certainly certainly winnable. Do we have any questions?
We do, and we have one that fits the theme because the first one, by the way, you can send these questions in on our Final Play app using the Final Word feature, or always feel free to leave a question in the comments. We do read the comments, and we see the questions that you guys are asking. And this question coming from Joey DeMillette from Kenner. With Taysom Hill's latest performance and the numbers and the records that he's putting up, is he a Pro Football Hall of Fame candidate when his career ends? Important to note that after Sunday's game, Taysom became, it's always an obscure stat when it comes to Taysom, the second player ever with 30 rushing touchdowns, 10 receiving touchdowns, 10 passing touchdowns. He finds unique ways to do it, but Taysom Hill is doing things, Sean, that we've never seen really anybody in the history of this league do.
It's so different, though, with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That is those guys are so, like, no, this is the Hall of Fame, prestigious. I know Jari, I don't think the first round he was able to get in voting-wise. He didn't make it through. Jari Evans, I'm talking about, who was honored in the game. I don't know who you historically compare him to, and if that person is in the Hall of Fame, he would be worthy. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't, because it's impossible to understand the criteria. How they would even look at this? Would they say, yeah, he's valuable as a Swiss Army knife, but if he was any one of the 3 positions or 4 positions that he plays, would he even come close to getting the Hall of Fame? Obviously, no. NFL Hall of Fame is different. So I'm just going to err on the side of caution and say probably not. Now, he's a first ballot Saints Hall of Famer. Easy. I can guarantee you that. And he may be one of the ones that get the name on the up in the rafters. Who knows? But Pro Football Hall of Fame, that might be a stretch going forward because you need to have one of those careers. Like sometimes one of those things where like if you gotta discuss it, it's almost like you can't vote for it. If there's any debate about it, then there's no vote. So yeah, he's a fantastic player, one of the most unique players we'll ever see, but I'm gonna say no, he does not get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
It's hard because he is 34. If Taysom Hill was putting up these numbers and he was 24, and he's been doing this for the last few years at age 24, and you can project him maybe doing it for another 10 years, in doing something for that long at such a unique level and in such a unique way, you could argue maybe then he would be in the Hall of Fame, but at age 34, you can only play for so long. He kind of started doing this towards the latter point of his career. He probably doesn't have enough longevity to make it in the Hall of Fame, but like you said, he's one of the best Saints I've ever seen in my lifetime. I've never seen anybody who can do the things that Taysom Hill can do on a football field. And like I said, 9-2 since 2022 when you give him 10 or more touches, including pass attempts. So when you put the ball in the guy's hands, you win football games.
Yeah, and again, for me, it's, I think teams have kind of have stepped away from this line of thinking, but that was a very real thing. We got to find our Taysom, like at 18, 19, and 20. Heck, I remember the Saints drafting Tommy Stevens because they thought he could have a Taysom-type career. And it goes to show you that you can't go scouting that. Like, it's just, you can't go scouting something like that and I hope it works out. It kind of happened organically for the Saints. It was kind of a fluky thing that they even saw him when that waiver wire selection, that waiver wire pickup. We're looking at McCaffrey's brother, for a practice squad spot. They picked him up, and they used him on special teams because he could run, and all of a sudden he was open to it, and he was smart enough, and a lot of it boils down to you got to be 6'2", 230, because that body type can be malleable and play a lot of different positions in the NFL, and they're just so hard and run a 4.4. They're so hard to find those type of players that can do that many things on the football field. So first ballot Saints Hall of Famer, I just don't think he's going to have the career that NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame voters are going to say, yeah, he's an NFL Hall of Famer.
I agree with that. Saints Hall of Famer, Pro Football Hall of Famer, unlikely, but hey, you never know. Next question coming from Rob Kepler from Pearl River. This is in Rob's words. Great to see Cam, the man, Jordan playing again. Why would DA not give him playing time? Terrible coach. Go Rizzy. Who dat? Rizzy. That's who. So long story short, Cam Jordan playing a lot more now. He was not playing as much when Dennis Allen was the coach. Is there a reason for that?
No. Well, look, I think they went with a younger guy. They went with talent. But I think as the season progressed, a lot of people, and this was probably one of DA's downfalls, there were certain people that weren't selling out for the team, that weren't all in, that weren't giving effort on every play. And it was how many games did we see with missed tackles? And one thing you're going to get from Cam every single play he's on the field is 100% max effort. And 100% max effort from Cam, even at 35 years old, is better than the younger guy. And honestly, Rizzy saw it. The new defensive line coach saw it, Brian Young, and then obviously Joe Wood saw it as well. I think that was a great change up front, and he's playing ball right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the percentage of snap counts, Cam Jordan has had his 2 highest snap percentages in the last 2 games. He played 54% of snaps against Atlanta, and he played 67% of the snaps yesterday against
I didn't realize
the
it was that
Cleveland
much.
Browns.
67, wow.
67%, and he's making an impact. He had a sack in Atlanta, and yesterday it doesn't go down as a sack, but on the 2-point conversion when they were from the 1-yard line early in the game, and Jameis was hurried and had to throw the ball out the back of the end zone, that was Cam Jordan. If he has more time there, Cleveland takes an early 8-7 lead. Cam Jordan blows that play up, and you kind of hear him joking about it after the game when they were hugged up and talking and everything. But Cam Jordan is the one that almost got the sack there, but blew the play up for Jameis, so he's having an impact.
Jameis still struggles with that bootleg. He did that. Even when he was on that little tear back in 21 here, he still struggled with that deep drop bootleg. The timing's never right. That free side defender just does not bite on that play fake, and Cam was in his face, and it ended up being an intentional grounding penalty.
Yeah.
Jameis played all right. I thought he played okay. 395 yards, had some explosive plays. That's an issue for the Saints defense. We only got about 30 seconds here, but that's an issue for the Saints defense. But I think all things being considered, gotta like where they stand.
Definitely. In this bye week, I think with a team that's had so many health issues, I know you've got a lot of momentum going, but a week to sit back, spend with your family around the holidays, I don't think that's a bad thing for the Saints. They've got a big game against the Rams coming out of it, and I'm excited to see how they'll look.
Look, and I think it's set up nice for Rizzy. 2 home games, biggest rival, a bye, and another home game. So I think the schedule kind of worked out for him. All right, we're out of time. So for Andre Johnson Jr., I am Sean Fazende. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime.